Commander Zixtharak stretched his forearms above his head and let out a long breath. Another day of watching empty space from the Coalition monitoring station Nexus Prime. The Volanti officer had been stationed at the edge of known space for 3 months now, and the routine was starting to wear on him. His mixed-species crew shared the same feeling of endless boredom that came with deep space assignments. Navigator Quinn Taylor sat at his station, all 6 of his arms moving across different control panels at once. The insectoid being was good at his job, but even he looked tired of scanning the same empty sectors day after day. Science Officer Miranash tapped her clawed fingers against her console, her reptilian eyes fixed on sensor readings that showed nothing but dust and distant stars. The Galactic Coalition had sent them here to map this region of space and look for new worlds that might be useful. So far, they had found 17 dead planets, 12 asteroid fields, and more empty space than anyone could count. It was important work, but it was not exciting work. Zixtharak was reading his daily reports when Quintalor suddenly went very still. All 6 arms stopped moving at the same time, which never happened unless something was very wrong or very interesting. "Commander," Quintalor said, his voice carrying that careful tone that meant he was not sure what he was seeing. "I have something on long-range sensors. A ship just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system." Zixtharak felt his interest wake up for the first time in weeks. "Show me what you have." The main screen filled with sensor data. There was definitely a ship out there, but the readings were strange. The vessel was big, much bigger than most civilian ships, but it was not built like anything in their databases. Where Coalition ships were smooth and curved, this one was all angles and hard edges. Where their ships had thin hulls designed for speed and efficiency, this one looked like someone had wrapped it in layers of armor thick enough to stop asteroids. "That is not a design I recognize," Miranash said, her voice filled with scientific curiosity. "The hull configuration is completely wrong for any known species. Look at those weapon mounts. There are dozens of them." Zixtharak studied the image more carefully. She was right. The ship bristled with weapon systems like a war machine from the old stories. Energy cannons, missile tubes, and things he could not identify covered every surface. This was not a cargo hauler or passenger transport. This was something built for fighting. "Energy readings?" he asked. Quintaler worked his controls with nervous energy. "Commander, the power output from that ship is enormous. It is reading higher than our own battle cruisers. Much higher." That was impossible. Nexus Prime was a military station with shields and weapons designed to handle anything the galaxy could throw at them. For a single unknown ship to show power readings that high meant either their sensors were broken or they were looking at something very dangerous. "Try standard first contact protocols," Zixtharak ordered. "Send them the universal greeting and see if they respond." Miranash sent the message that the Coalition used for all new species. It was a simple mathematical sequence followed by basic language patterns that any intelligent race should be able to understand. They waited. The response came back faster than anyone expected. A voice spoke from the communication system, clear and confident. What made everyone on the bridge go quiet was not just that the voice answered, but how it answered. "Greetings, Coalition Station Nexus Prime. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiant. We come in peace and request permission to approach for peaceful contact and cultural exchange. We are honored to meet you." The message was spoken in perfect Coalition standard, followed immediately by the same words in Volanti, then in Quintalor's native language, then in Miranash's tongue, and finally in 3 other Coalition languages that Zixtharak recognized. "How is that possible?" Quintalor whispered. "No unknown species should be able to speak our languages." "We have never met these humans before." Zixtharak felt a chill run down his spine. Either these humans had been watching the Coalition for a very long time, or they had technology that let them learn languages faster than should be possible. Either option was comforting. "Captain Morrison?" Zixtharak replied carefully. "I am Commander Zixtharak of the Galactic Coalition. Your ship design is unknown to us. May I ask where you come from?" "We come from a world called Earth about 200 light-years from here. We are explorers from the United Earth government. We have been traveling through this region of space for several months, mapping new systems and hoping to meet other intelligent species. Today is a good day for both of us, I think." The human captain sounded relaxed and friendly, like he was talking to old friends instead of meeting aliens for the first time. But there was something else in his voice. a kind of quiet confidence that suggested he was not worried about anything that might happen. "Permission granted to approach," Zixtharak said. "Please maintain a safe distance while we prepare for contact." "Understood, Commander. We will hold position at 10,000 kilometers while you make your preparations. Thank you for your hospitality." As the Defiant moved closer, the crew of Nexus Prime got a better look at what they were dealing with. The human ship was even more impressive up close. The armor plating was not just thick, it was layered and angled in ways that suggested the builders had put a lot of thought into stopping incoming fire. Energy conduits ran along the outside of the hull like veins, probably backup systems in case the main power grid took damage. "Commander," Miranash said quietly, "their scanning systems are much more advanced than ours. They are getting detailed readings of our station right now, and I do not think there is anything we can do to stop them." Zixtharak watched the sensor displays as the human ship conducted what appeared to be a complete analysis of their defenses, weapon systems, and internal structure. It was not aggressive scanning, but it was thorough in a way that made it clear these humans knew exactly what they were looking at. "Sir," Quintaller said, his voice showing the strain of trying to track the human ship's movements, "they are not flying like a civilian vessel. Their approach pattern is textbook military doctrine, but not any military doctrine I have ever seen. They are staying in our sensor blind spots without even trying." "What kind of explorers are these humans?" Miranash asked. Zixtharak did not have an answer. In his 40 years of military service, he had met many species. Some were peaceful traders who wanted nothing more than to buy and sell goods across the galaxy. Others were aggressive warriors who solved every problem with weapons and threats. A few were advanced scientists who treated first contact like a fascinating experiment. These humans felt different. They spoke like diplomats, flew like veterans, and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Captain Morrison's voice had been friendly and polite, but there had been something underneath it that reminded Zixtharak of apex predators from his home world. Creatures that were calm and peaceful right up until the moment they decided you were a threat. "Commander," the human captain's voice came through the speakers again, "we would like to send over a small diplomatic team to meet with you in person. We have gifts from Earth and information about our people that we would be happy to share." "That would be acceptable, Captain Morrison. Our docking bay can accommodate your shuttle." "Thank you, Commander. We will be over in 30 minutes. Zixtharak closed the channel and looked at his crew. "I want full security teams in the docking bay, but keep their weapons lowered. These humans might be friendly, but that ship of theirs could turn us into scrap metal without breaking a sweat. Let us not give them any reason to think we are a threat." "Do you think they are dangerous?" Quinteller asked. Zixtharak looked at the image of the human warship on his screen. It hung in space like a metal predator, beautiful and terrible at the same time. "I think they are the most dangerous thing we have ever encountered," he said quietly. "And I think they are trying very hard to be polite about it." The human shuttle that docked with Nexus Prime was smaller than most Coalition diplomatic vessels, but it shared the same brutal efficiency as the main ship. When the airlock opened, 3 humans stepped onto the station with the kind of easy confidence that spoke of people who were very comfortable in dangerous places. Captain Jake Morrison was tall for a human, with short brown hair and blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around him without missing a detail. He wore a dark blue uniform that looked both practical and formal, with subtle rank insignia that suggested military training. When he smiled and extended his hand to Zixtharak, the gesture seemed genuinely friendly. "Commander Zixtharak, it is an honor to meet you," Morrison said, speaking perfect Coalition standard, with just a hint of an accent that made his words sound musical. "Thank you for welcoming us to your station." "The honor is ours, Captain Morrison," Zixtharak replied, trying to match the human's calm manner. "These are my officers, Navigator Quintaller and Science Officer Miranash." Morrison turned to his companions. "This is Dr. Lisa Hartwell, our chief xenobiologist and cultural specialist, and Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres, our tactical officer." Dr. Hartwell was a shorter human with brown hair and intelligent green eyes that seemed fascinated by everything she saw. She carried herself like a scientist, but there was something about her posture that suggested she could handle herself in a fight, if necessary. Lieutenant Commander Torres was different. He was built like a weapon, with the kind of controlled movements that made Zixtharak's security team nervous without quite knowing why. His dark eyes missed nothing, and when he looked at the Coalition officers, It felt like he was making calculations about things they did not want him to calculate. "Your station is impressive," Dr. Hartwell said, looking around the docking bay with genuine interest. "The architecture is very different from our designs, but the engineering principles are sound. May I ask what materials you use for the outer hull?" Miranash lit up at the chance to talk about engineering. "We use a titanium ceramic composite with crystalline support structures. It provides good protection against micrometeorites and radiation, while keeping the weight manageable." "Interesting." Dr. Hartwell nodded. "We use something similar, but we add layers of reactive armor underneath. Space can be dangerous, and we have learned that it is better to be too careful than not careful enough." Zix Tharak led the humans to the station's main conference room, trying not to think about the fact that their ship could probably blast Nexus Prime apart without working very hard. As they walked through the corridors, he noticed that the humans seemed to be mapping the station's layout without being obvious about it. "Captain Morrison," Zix Tharak said as they settled around the conference table, "your ship is quite impressive. May I ask what kind of exploration vessel carries so many weapons?" Morrison's smile became slightly apologetic. "The Defiant is not actually a military vessel, Commander. She is one of our standard exploration ships. We learned a long time ago that space is full of things that want to kill you, so we build all our ships to handle whatever they might encounter." "Standard exploration ships?" Quintalor asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Captain, your vessel has more firepower than most Coalition battlecruisers." "Really?" Morrison looked genuinely surprised. "The Defiant is actually on the lighter side for long-range exploration. We figure that any ship going into unknown space needs to be able to defend itself against whatever it finds out there. Pirates, hostile aliens, space monsters, ancient defense systems, that sort of thing." "Space monsters?" Miranash asked. "Oh yes," Dr. Hartwell said cheerfully. "The galaxy is full of creatures that live in space and eat metal. We have encountered 17 different species so far. Most of them are not too difficult to deal with once you understand their behavior patterns, but some of them can grow quite large." Zix Tharak felt his understanding of the galaxy shift slightly. The Coalition had encountered maybe 3 space-dwelling life forms in their entire history, and the humans were talking about 17 like it was no big deal. "How long have your people been traveling in space?" he asked. "About 800 years, Morrison replied. "We have been exploring beyond our home system for about 600 of those. It has been an interesting journey. 600 years of deep space exploration. The Coalition had been spacefaring for less than 200 years, and they had never ventured far from their home sectors. These humans had been crossing the galaxy longer than most Coalition species had been flying between planets." "May I ask about your energy weapons?" Torres spoke for the first time, his voice carrying a professional curiosity that made everyone else at the table nervous. "Your defensive systems are impressive, but the power requirements must be enormous." "We use standard Coalition technology," Miranash replied carefully. "Plasma cannons and particle beams mostly." Torres nodded politely. "We have experimented with similar systems. The Defiant carries gravimetric disruptors and quantum phase cannons, but we also have more conventional weapons for situations that do not require exotic physics." "Gravimetric disruptors?" Quintalor whispered. "They create localized gravity fields that tear apart molecular bonds," Torres explained matter-of-factly. "Very effective against heavily armored targets. The quantum phase cannons work by shifting the target out of normal spacetime for a few microseconds. When they snap back, they tend to come apart." Zix Tharak felt cold. The Coalition's most advanced weapons research was still working on improved plasma focusing systems. These humans were talking about weapons that manipulated gravity and space-time, like they were discussing the weather. "Have you had to use these weapons often?" he asked. Morrison and Torres exchanged a look that lasted only a fraction of a second, but it carried the weight of shared experiences that Zix Tharak could not begin to imagine. "Space can be a hostile place," Morrison said simply. "We prefer to solve problems with words when possible, but sometimes that is not an option. We have learned to be very good at both approaches." "What kind of problems have you encountered?" Miranash asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. Dr. Hartwell pulled out a small device that projected a 3-dimensional star map. "In our travels, we have met 47 different intelligent species. Most of them have been friendly and interested in trade or cultural exchange. Some have been neutral and preferred to be left alone, which we respect. A few have been actively hostile and had to be dealt with accordingly. Dealt with how? Zixtharak asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. We tried diplomacy first, Morrison said. If that fails, we try economic pressure or other peaceful solutions. If those fail and they continue to be a threat to innocent people, we stop them. The way he said stop them made it clear that human diplomacy came with a very final backup plan. Your people sound very capable, Zixtharak said carefully. We have had to be, Dr. Hartwell replied. Earth is not a gentle world, and space turned out to be even less gentle. But that has taught us to value peace when we find it, and to protect it when we have it. What is Earth like? Miranash asked. Morrison's expression softened. Beautiful and terrible. Vast oceans that can swallow ships whole. Mountains that scrape the sky. Forests filled with creatures that have been fighting to survive for millions of years. The weather alone has killed more humans than most wars. But it is home and it made us who we are. It sounds dangerous, Quinteller said. Very dangerous, Torres agreed. But that taught us that the universe does not care about fairness or good intentions. It only cares about who is strong enough to survive and smart enough to adapt. So we learned to be both. Zixtharak looked at the three humans sitting across from him and began to understand what he was really seeing. These were not just explorers or diplomats. They were the end result of millions of years of evolution on a world that had tried to kill their species every single day, followed by hundreds of years of expansion into a galaxy that had continued the tradition. They spoke softly and smiled often, but underneath their polite exterior was something that the Coalition had never encountered before. They were apex predators who had learned to be civilized but had never forgotten how to hunt. 3 days had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime, and Zixtharak was beginning to feel like he understood them a little better. They were polite, intelligent, and genuinely interested in learning about Coalition culture and technology. They shared stories of their travels and showed remarkable knowledge of galactic history and politics. They were also, he was becoming convinced, the most dangerous beings he had ever encountered. It was not anything they said or did. They were always friendly and respectful. But there were small things that bothered him. The way Torres automatically positioned himself where he could watch all the entrances to any room they entered. The way Dr. Hartwell asked innocent questions about Coalition military doctrine and defense strategies. The way Captain Morrison seemed to know exactly how many security personnel were on the station and where they were stationed. Zixtharak was thinking about this when the alarms started, screaming, "Commander to the bridge immediately." Quinteler's voice came over the intercom, high with stress. We have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Zixtharak ran for the bridge, the humans following close behind him. When he reached his command station, he saw something on the main screen that made his blood turn cold. 13 ships had just arrived, and their design was unmistakable. Black hulls covered with spikes and weapon ports, engines that burned red like dying stars, and energy signatures that spoke of violence and death. The Scourge fleet had found them. How many ships? Zixtharak asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 12 heavy raiders and 1 command ship, Quinteller reported. Full Scourge battle fleet. They are moving toward us at high speed. The Scourge were the galaxy's most feared pirates. For 50 years they had terrorized Coalition space, raiding colonies and destroying anyone who tried to stop them. Their ships were fast, well-armed, and crewed by beings who had chosen violence as a way of life. Worst of all, they never left survivors. Begin evacuation procedures, Zixtharak ordered. Get everyone to the emergency shuttles. Send a distress signal to Coalition Command. Commander, Miranash said, her voice shaking. They will be here in 40 minutes. We cannot evacuate everyone in time. Zixtharak knew she was right. Nexus Prime had a crew of 300, and the emergency shuttles could only carry half that number. Even if they could get everyone off the station, the Scourge would hunt down the shuttles for sport. Captain Morrison, Zixtharak said, turning to the human, I suggest you return to your ship immediately. Your vessel is fast enough to escape before they get here. Morrison was studying the tactical display with the kind of calm focus that Zixtharak had seen in veteran warriors. Commander, may I have detailed information on the approaching fleet? Ship types, weapon configurations, tactical patterns? Captain, there is no time, Zixtharak said urgently. You need to leave now while you still can. Torres had moved to stand behind Quinteller and was reading the sensor data over his shoulder. 12 Scourge heavy raiders and a command ship, he said to Morrison. Standard pack formation, energy weapons, and kinetic missiles. They look like Vega-class pirates. Morrison nodded thoughtfully. Vega-class. We dealt with similar pirates in the asteroid belt about 300 years ago. Nasty but not particularly clever. He turned to Zixtharak. Commander, with your permission, I would like to handle this situation. Handle it? Zixtharak stared at him. Captain, that is a full Scourge battle fleet. 13 ships that have been terrorizing this part of the galaxy for decades. Your ship cannot possibly fight all of them. One ship against 13, Torres mused, looking at the tactical display. It has been a while since we had a proper challenge. A challenge? Kinsler whispered. Morrison looked at Zixtharak with steady blue eyes. Commander, the Defiant was built to handle situations exactly like this. Trust me. Before Zixtharak could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A harsh voice filled with arrogance and cruelty spoke in accented Coalition standard. Coalition Station, this is Warlord Krexthul of the Scourge Fleet. You have 30 minutes to evacuate your station and prepare it for our arrival. Anyone remaining aboard when we dock will be killed. Your cargo and technology now belong to us. Resistance is futile and will result in the total destruction of your pathetic outpost. Zixtharak felt sick. Krexthul was the worst of the Scourge warlords. A being who had destroyed 17 Coalition colonies and killed thousands of innocent people. There was no negotiating with him, no mercy to be found. Morrison reached over and activated the communication system before anyone could stop him. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiant, he said, his voice carrying the kind of cold authority that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. Warlord Krexthul, you will turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately. This is your only warning. The silence that followed lasted for nearly 10 seconds. Then Krexthul began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass and dying animals. One ship threatens the might of the Scourge fleet? Human, your species must be even more stupid than they are weak. I will make your death slow and creative. Morrison's response was a single word that would be remembered throughout Coalition space. For the next 1,000 years, no. He cut the communication and turned to his companions. Torres, return to the ship and bring us to combat readiness. Dr. Hartwell, please remain here to observe and assist with any casualties. Captain, Zixtharak said desperately, you cannot fight 13 ships alone. It is suicide. Morrison smiled, and for the first time since meeting him, Zixtharak saw what lay beneath the human's polite exterior. It was not cruelty or bloodlust. It was the calm certainty of a natural predator that had just identified prey. Commander, humanity has been fighting pirates and monsters for 800 years. We have gotten very good at it. Please keep your people safe and watch what happens when someone threatens our friends. Morrison and Torres left for their shuttle, leaving Dr. Hartwell on the bridge. She looked at the Coalition officers with something that might have been sympathy. You have never seen humans fight, have you? She asked gently. Doctor, Zixtharak said, 13 against 1 is impossible odds. Dr. Hartwell looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Scourge fleet. Commander, my species fought its way off a death world across a hostile galaxy, and through more wars than you can imagine. 13 pirates are not impossible odds. They are just target practice. 10 minutes later, the Defiant undocked from Nexus Prime and moved to position itself between the station and the approaching Scourge fleet. On the main screen, Zixtharak watched the human ship hang in space like a metal shark waiting for prey. All Coalition frequencies are receiving a transmission from the Defiant. Quinteler reported. Morrison's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional. This is Captain Morrison to all Coalition personnel. Please maintain safe distance and prepare to record. What you are about to witness will be a demonstration of why humanity has survived this long in a dangerous galaxy. The Scourge fleet dropped out of hyperspace 20,000 kilometers away, their ships spreading into an attack formation that had destroyed hundreds of Coalition vessels over the years. 13 ships against 1, with total confidence in their inevitable victory. Zixtharak watched his sensors as the Defiant's weapon systems came online. The energy readings were staggering, far beyond anything he had imagined possible. Every weapon on the human ship was charging simultaneously, drawing power from reactors that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Energy spike across all human weapon systems. Mira Nash reported, her voice filled with awe and terror. Commander, the power levels are off our scales. The Scourge fleet began to accelerate toward the Defiant, weapons charging, confident in their numerical superiority. Krexthul broadcast one final transmission. Stupid human. You will die knowing that your foolishness doomed everyone on that station. Morrison's reply was quiet but carried clearly across all frequencies. No. You will. The battle began. What happened next was not a battle. It was an execution. The Defiant opened fire with weapons that defied everything the Coalition thought they knew about space combat. Beams of twisted light reached out across the void, and where they touched the Scourge ships, reality itself seemed to bend and break. Entire sections of hull simply ceased to exist as quantum phase cannons shifted matter out of normal spacetime. Gravimetric torpedoes streaked toward their targets, each one carrying a miniature black hole that tore apart molecular bonds and turned solid metal into expanding clouds of atomic particles. The Scourge ship's armor, which had shrugged off Coalition weapons for decades, offered no more protection than paper. Impossible, Quintaler whispered, all 6 of his arms frozen over his controls as he watched the sensor readings. The energy calculations are impossible. The first Scourge raider simply vanished. One moment it was accelerating toward the Defiant, weapons blazing. The next moment it was gone, erased from existence by weapons that operated on principles the Coalition had never imagined. The second and third ships met similar fates as the human vessel's point defense systems came online. Streams of coherent energy moved at light speed, tracking and destroying incoming missiles with surgical precision. Every shot found its target. Every target was eliminated. How are they moving like that? Miranash asked, her voice filled with scientific disbelief. Their ship is changing direction faster than our sensors can track. The Defiant danced through space like a living thing, avoiding incoming fire with movements that seemed to ignore the laws of inertia and momentum. When Scourge weapons did manage to hit their target, the shots struck energy shields that absorbed the impact and somehow made the human ship move even faster. Adaptive shielding, Dr. Hartwell explained calmly from her position next to Zix Tharak. The shields analyze incoming energy patterns and adjust their frequency to absorb the attack. The absorbed energy gets fed back into our engines and weapon systems. They are using enemy fire to make themselves stronger? Zix Tharak asked. Waste not, want not, Dr. Hartwell replied with a slight smile. By the 4-minute mark, 8 Scourge ships had been reduced to expanding debris fields. The remaining 5, including Krexthul's command ship, were desperately trying to escape. Their formation had collapsed, their confidence shattered, their legendary reputation as unstoppable. Killers broken against the simple reality of meeting something more dangerous than themselves. The Defiant pursued them with the patient efficiency of a predator that knew its prey could not escape. Long-range missiles reached out across thousands of kilometers, each one guided by targeting systems that could track a grain of sand in a dust storm. One by one, the fleeing Scourge ships died. Krexthul's command ship lasted the longest, its heavy armor and desperate evasive maneuvers buying it an extra 90 seconds of life. When it finally died, it went out in a flash of light that could be seen from the outer edge of the system. Total combat time, 7 minutes and 32 seconds. When it was over, the Defiant hung in space, surrounded by slowly expanding clouds of debris that had once been the most feared pirate fleet in Coalition space. The human ship had not suffered so much as a scratch on its paint. The silence on the bridge of Nexus Prime was absolute. 300 Coalition personnel watched their screens in stunned disbelief, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Across the station, emergency alarms continued to wail, but nobody moved to turn them off. Commander, Morrison's voice came through the communication system. As calm and polite as ever, the immediate threat has been neutralized. The Defiant is returning to dock. I hope no one was injured during the excitement. Zix Tharak found his voice after several tries. Captain Morrison, that was... How did you... We have never seen anything like that. The Scourge reminded me of the asteroid pirates we dealt with in the Vega sector, about 300 years ago, Morrison replied. Similar tactics, similar technology. Once you understand their patterns, they are not too difficult to handle. Not too difficult to handle. 13 ships that had terrorized the galaxy for decades. Dismissed as a minor inconvenience, Captain, Miranash said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Coalition has been fighting the Scourge for 50 years. They have destroyed 17 of our colonies and killed thousands of our people. Our best fleets could barely drive them off, and you just eliminated an entire battle group in under 8 minutes. There was a pause before Morrison responded. I am sorry for your losses, Science Officer Miranash. Pirates are a plague that should not be tolerated anywhere. We will be happy to help the Coalition deal with any similar problems in the future. An hour later, Morrison and Torres returned to Nexus Prime. They looked exactly the same as when they had left, calm and professional and completely unaffected by the fact that they had just rewritten the military balance of the entire galaxy. Was anyone hurt during the engagement? Morrison asked as soon as he stepped off the shuttle. No injuries, Zixtharak replied. Captain, we need to understand what just happened. Your weapons, your ship, the way you fought, none of it should be possible. Dr. Hartwell spoke up from her position at one of the science stations. Commander, may I explain something about human history? Please do, Zixtharak said. He needed to understand. Earth is what we call a death world, Dr. Hartwell began. The weather alone kills millions of creatures every year. Hurricanes that can flatten forests, earthquakes that split mountains, winters that freeze entire continents solid. That is just the planet trying to kill you. Then there are the other life forms. Earth is home to creatures that hunt in packs, creatures that can kill with poison, creatures that are strong enough to tear apart trees with their bare hands. Every ecosystem on our world is a constant war for survival. Humans survived all of that? Quinteller asked. Not just survived, Torres said. We won. We fought our way to the top of the food chain, then off our planet, then across the galaxy. Every step of the way, we met things that wanted to kill us, and we learned to kill them first. But you are not warlike, Miranash protested. You are polite, diplomatic, reasonable. We are, Morrison agreed. We prefer to solve problems with words when possible. But we learned a long time ago that the universe does not always give you that option. Sometimes the only choice is between becoming a victim or becoming something that victims do not mess with. So we chose to become something that victims do not mess with, Dr. Hartwell continued. Every human ship is built to fight, because space is dangerous and we refuse to be helpless. Every human crew is trained in combat because predators respect strength and nothing else. The weapons you use today, Zixtharak said slowly, how long have you had technology like that? The gravimetric disruptors are about 200 years old, Torres replied. The quantum phase cannons are newer, maybe 50 years. We keep improving our tools because we keep meeting new problems that need solving. Zixtharak felt his understanding of the galaxy shift again. The Coalition had been treating this first contact like meeting another civilized species that happened to be good at engineering. What they had actually encountered was something that existed on a completely different level of evolution. These humans were not just another spacefaring race. They were the end result of millions of years of survival on a hostile world, followed by hundreds of years of expansion into an equally hostile universe. They had not conquered their way across the galaxy. They had simply refused to be conquered by anything else. What happens now? He asked. Morrison smiled. Now we continue getting to know each other. We came here to make friends, Commander, not to show off our weapons. Today was unfortunate but necessary. The Coalition leadership will want to meet with you, Zixtharak said. We would be honored to meet with them, Morrison replied. We have much to discuss. As word of the battle spread across Coalition space, Zixtharak realized that everything had changed. The galaxy had just learned that it was not alone, and that the new neighbors were beings who could erase entire fleets from existence. With casual efficiency, the silence that had followed the human warship's arrival was about to be broken by a sound that had not been heard in Coalition space for decades, the sound of hope. News of the Defiant's victory over the Scourge fleet traveled across Coalition space faster than hyperspace itself. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had lived in fear for generations suddenly found themselves asking the same question. If the humans could destroy the Scourge so easily, what else might they be able to do? The Coalition High Council called an emergency session within hours of receiving Zixtharak's report. Chancellor Veltaran, the ancient leader of the Altarian people, found herself staring at tactical recordings that showed weapons beyond anything her scientists had imagined possible. Are we certain this data is accurate? She asked the assembled council members. 13 Scourge ships destroyed in under 8 minutes by a single vessel? We have confirmed the reports with 17 independent sources, replied Admiral Kethvar, the Coalition's highest-ranking military officer. The human ship's capabilities exceed our most advanced battlecruisers by several orders of magnitude. And this was an exploration vessel? Asked Counselor Threndax, her tentacles writhing with nervous energy. According to their captain, yes, Admiral Kethvar confirmed, which raises obvious questions about what their actual military vessels might be capable of. Chancellor Veltaran had led the coalition for 30 years, guiding it through wars, diplomatic crises, and the constant threat of the scourge. She had never encountered a situation quite like this one. "Prepare my personal cruiser," she ordered. "I will go to Nexus Prime and meet these humans myself." 3 days later, the coalition flagship arrived at Nexus Prime accompanied by a full diplomatic fleet. Chancellor Veltaran had brought her most trusted advisors, her best negotiators, and enough military escort to make it clear that the coalition took this meeting very seriously. She was not sure what she expected to find when she met the humans. Perhaps arrogant conquerors drunk on their own power, or cold calculating warriors who saw the galaxy as something to be dominated. What she found instead was Captain Morrison, waiting patiently in the station's main conference room, studying a tablet and sipping something that smelled like flowers. "Chancellor Veltaran," Morrison said, rising and offering a respectful bow in the Altarian fashion. "It is an honor to meet you. I have read about your efforts to bring peace to this region of space. Your reputation as a fair and wise leader precedes you." The human spoke her language perfectly and knew her culture well enough to greet her properly. Either they had been studying the coalition for much longer than anyone realized, or their learning abilities were as remarkable as their weapons technology. "Captain Morrison," she replied carefully, "your recent actions have sent shockwaves through coalition space. We are here to understand your intentions and discuss the future relationship between our peoples." "Of course," Morrison nodded. "We came to this region hoping to make contact with the coalition and establish friendly relations. The incident with the scourge was unfortunate, but we could not stand by and watch them threaten innocent people." Unfortunate. He spoke of eliminating the galaxy's most feared pirates like it had been a minor inconvenience. "Your ship's capabilities are beyond anything we have encountered," Admiral Kethvar said bluntly. "We need to understand what we are dealing with." Morrison gestured to his companions. "Admiral, this is Dr. Hartwell, our cultural specialist, and Commander Torres, our tactical officer. They can answer your technical questions better than I can. How many ships like the Defiant does humanity possess?" Admiral Kethvar asked directly. Torres considered the question carefully. "The Defiant is one of 47 exploration vessels currently operating in this region of the galaxy. We have approximately 200 similar ships conducting long-range surveys in other sectors." "And your military vessels?" the Admiral pressed. "We do not typically discuss our military capabilities with people we have just met," Morrison said diplomatically. "But I will say that humanity takes the defense of our territory and our allies very seriously." Chancellor Veltaran studied the human captain. There was no arrogance in his manner, no threats or demands, but there was an underlying confidence that suggested he was negotiating from a position of overwhelming strength. "What does humanity want from the coalition?" she asked. Morrison smiled. "Friendship, Chancellor. We would like to establish trade relations, exchange scientific knowledge, and learn about each other's cultures. We have found that the galaxy is a much more interesting place when you have friends to share it with." "And in return?" Admiral Kethvar asked suspiciously. "In return, we offer our protection against anyone who would threaten coalition space," Morrison replied. "Pirates, hostile aliens, space monsters, ancient defense systems, whatever you might encounter. We have been dealing with such things for centuries, and we are good at it." "You would protect our space?" Chancellor Veltaran asked. "What gives you the right to make such decisions?" "Not the right, Chancellor," Morrison said quietly. "The ability, and the responsibility that comes with it." Dr. Hartwell leaned forward. "Chancellor, in our travels we have met many species. Some choose to use their strength to dominate others. Some choose to hide and hope that stronger beings will leave them alone. We have chosen a third path, to use our strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves." "Why?" Counselor Threndax asked. "What do you gain from protecting strangers?" Morrison was quiet for a moment, considering his words. "Counselor, humanity spent millions of years fighting to survive on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned that the strong have two choices. They can prey on the weak or they can protect them. We chose protection because we remember what it was like to be weak. And besides," Torres added with a slight smile, "bullies annoy us." Chancellor Veltaran found herself believing them. There was something about these humans that reminded her of the ancient stories her people told about guardian spirits who protected the innocent from evil, except these guardians carried weapons that could tear apart space-time. "What are your terms for this alliance?" she asked. "Simple," Morrison replied. "Open trade, cultural exchange, and the freedom to establish colonies in unclaimed systems. We ask for no tribute, no territory that belongs to other species, and no special privileges. We just want to be neighbors." "That seems almost too reasonable," Admiral Kethvar said suspiciously. "Admiral," Morrison said with the expression that was both amused and slightly dangerous, "if we wanted to take your territory or enslave your people, do you really think we would need to ask permission?" The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone in the room understood exactly what he meant. The humans did not need to conquer anyone. They were strong enough to simply take whatever they wanted if negotiations failed. "We prefer cooperation to conquest," Dr. Hartwell said gently. "It is more profitable in the long run, and much more pleasant for everyone involved." 3 hours later, the Terra Coalition Accords were signed aboard the Defiant. As Chancellor Velteron toured the human ship, she was struck by how normal the crew seemed. They went about their duties with quiet professionalism, showing her the same polite respect they would give any honored guest. These were not warriors drunk on power or conquerors seeking to dominate the galaxy. They were simply people who had learned to be very, very good at staying alive in a hostile universe. "Captain Morrison," she said as they concluded the tour, "may I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Chancellor. Are there more human ships coming to this region?" Morrison smiled, and for a moment she saw something in his eyes that was both reassuring and terrifying. "Chancellor, the Defiant was just the advanced scout. Earth has been building ships for 800 years and we have gotten very good at it. How many ships are coming?" "Enough," Morrison replied simply. As the Defiant prepared to depart for new exploration missions, Zix Therak found himself standing next to Morrison on the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, they could see the stars spread out before them like diamonds scattered across black silk. "Captain," Zix Therak said, "what will you do now?" "Continue exploring," Morrison replied. "There are more stars out there than we can count, more worlds than we can imagine, and more friends waiting to be made. The galaxy is a big place, Commander, and we have only just begun to see what it has to offer. And if you encounter more threats like the Scourge," Morrison's smile was both gentle and absolutely merciless, "then we will deal with them the same way we dealt with the Scourge. Quickly, efficiently, and permanently." As the human ship departed Nexus Prime and vanished into hyperspace, Zix Therak realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The long age of fear was ending and a new age was beginning. An age where predators would think twice before attacking the innocent, where pirates would flee at the first sign of human ships, where the strong would protect the weak instead of preying on them. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not as conquerors or destroyers, but as guardians, and the silence that had followed their warship's arrival was finally broken by a sound that echoed across 1,000 worlds. The sound of hope.